I'm going to run through some statistics, right? So I was having a discussion with my buddy Tony from MBN, and I think it was my buddy Breezy from MBN. Mm-hmm. And I said that if I'm going to trade 2 first-round picks for a safety, it's going to be a Minkah Fitzpatrick. Mm-hmm. Somebody who's a ball hawk, who gives us a different dynamic, who can play the slot, who can play corner, who can play free safety, who can play strong safety, right? Mm-hmm. That guy is not a good coverage guy. Let me tell you why Jamal Adams is not a good coverage guy. I went and I looked at all of the safeties and qualifying safeties I have, and these are just the guys that I wrote down, right? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 guys who allowed less receptions and had better ratings in coverage than Jamal Adams. So let me read them out to you, right? Because I think people are going to be, highly surprised. So Anthony Harris, he allowed 11 receptions.
Hell of
Adams allowed 28, right?
Who? Sorry, I was talking to you.
Jamal Adams allowed 28.
28, okay.
Justin Simmons, 25.
Okay.
Devin McCourty, 14. No, actually, that's a
great player.
My bad. Earl Thomas, 5. And we torched Earl Thomas.
Well, he's a free safety, but yeah.
Right. Minkah Fitzpatrick, 15. Harrison Smith, 18. Kevin Byard, 24. Eddie Jackson, 23. Marcus Williams from the Saints. We made him look stupid. Do you know he only allowed 11 receptions last year? I think half of those came against San Francisco. Jimmy Ward, 13. Okay. Jaquaski Tart, 13. And he missed 3 games, but that's still 15 receptions less. You can't tell me that Jaquaski Tart was going to allow 15 receptions in those 3 games. It's not going to happen. Xavier Woods, 19. Derwin James, 14. And then we have Quandre Diggs, 4.
Quandre Diggs is a good player. Quandre Diggs is a good player.
Yeah, so you're telling me that you're going to trade 2 firsts. So you're going to trade your first and your third next year when you're a team that's known for trading your first for a second and a mid-round third, and you're going to trade your first for the following year, and you're going to trade Bradley McDougald. Let's look at Bradley McDougald's stats right now. Bradley McDougald tackles. He had 70. Adams, he had 60. Bradley McDougald, interceptions. He had 2, and then Adams had 1. Receptions allowed, 20. You know how many Adams had? He allowed 28 receptions. Then we look at the forced fumbles and fumble recoveries. Bradley McDougald had 1. Adams had 2 forced fumbles. Fumble recoveries, 1 and 1. Only thing that Adams was better than McDougald at is 6.5 sacks. And it's in the NFC West and not that weak-ass AFC South.
Well, I guess they should have made McDougald the All-Pro then, huh?
I'm just pointing out statistics. These are numbers. These real facts, right?
No, those are great. That's great context, man. That's really good context. So let me try to explain it. What's going on there? How did he give up? Okay, keep going.
I got one more point. Okay. Then we have to look at how much snaps was Adams playing in the box compared to what we do with our offense. You know what I mean? Jaquaski Tart and Ward played in the box less than 37% of the time. That's not what we do. So that means 63% of the time they were playing Tampa 2. They were up high, right? Mm-hmm. That's not what Jamal Adams does, bro. So if I'm going to trade that much for a guy, I need somebody who brings something else besides for playing in the box. And then I want to tell you guys, we have a guy named Quan Alexander. In 8 games, Quan Alexander had 34 tackles, 1 sack, 4 pass breakups, 1 interception, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery. In 8 games. So if he would have played the full 16 games, he would have basically had 8 PBUs, 2 interceptions, two forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, and 68 sacks. His stats would have been better than Jamal Adams, and he's going to be way cheaper, right? So it's just like we don't need a guy to be in the box. We have, I believe, the best linebacking tandem in the league. I don't think I can name one.
Okay,
right?
Hold on. Jaquaski Tart has 3 interceptions in 5 career seasons.
Okay.
He has 2 forced fumbles in 5 career seasons. So there's no comparison between him and Jamal Adams, just for the record.
I'm talking about in coverage, bro. His coverage,
okay. That's fair. No, those are great stats, man.
And he allowed less receptions.
Yeah, okay. So let me try to explain what's going on with Adams because he's an all-pro safety and you bring up really good numbers. So what the hell's going on there? The way I look at it is I don't watch that much Jets defense, but I'm guessing he played a lot of man coverage. Because if you give up 28 catches, that means you're probably man-to-man on tight ends a lot. So maybe he's not the greatest in man-to-man coverage. I don't know. I really haven't studied him like that.
He's not a great coverage guy.
Fair enough. But in Seattle, he's not going to be playing man. He's going to be playing zone coverage in the flat. I mean, that's like what Cam Chancellor did. And so on that defense, he's a perfect fit. Like whatever weaknesses he may have, which aren't many, are minimized in that scheme. And whatever strengths he has, which are plentiful, are highlighted. He's like Cam Chancellor, except better. He's a super Cam Chancellor. I mean, Cam Chancellor was a hell of a player, but I don't think he ever had 6.5 sacks in a season. I don't think he was ever all-pro. Was he all-pro? He might have been. Anyway, this to me is the next Cam Chancellor, or maybe even better. I would say better. So we've seen what kind of impact when Cam Chancellor was in his prime on that team, he was one of their most valuable players. And there was one season when I think he held out for like 4 games because he wanted a new deal. Right, I think the Seahawks went like 2-2 or 1-3, right? Like during the middle of their run. Right. So he was really important. And ever since they lost him, that team has been different because he was the hardest hitting, most violent player on the team. He was part of their identity. And ever since he's been gone, it's like been Bradley McDougald or whatever. I think Adams kind of brings that hard hitting, I don't know what you call it, but he brings back that identity that Cam Chancellor gave it. I think he's freaking perfect for that particular team.
I don't think he's better than Cam Chancellor, bro. Cam Chancellor was a different animal. We talking about somebody who was like 6'3", 6'4", 220, ran a 4.5. Like it's a totally different. You don't see those type of body sizes moving like that. The defensive backfield, who was basically a linebacker who was playing safety. And the reason I'm basically making the point that there's a lot of guys in this league who had better numbers as far as coverage wise. That's what I'm talking about.
All I'm saying is on this team, he's going to be in zone more. So if he's getting exploited in man-to-man coverage, then he needs to be on the Seahawks. This is a great fit for him. I don't think he'll be exploited like that. And I think a brilliant defensive coordinator like Pete Carroll will find ways to make him even more effective as a playmaker. The way I always compare him to Troy Polamalu because Troy Polamalu was the kind of guy who could blitz on any play. He was really a pass rushing threat, and you always had to account for him. Always had to know where he was because he could be coming. And that's kind of the threat that Jamal Adams – now, Troy Polamalu is a Hall of Famer. Not saying Jamal Adams will be that, but in terms of style, that's the way I think of Adams. The kind of guy that could jump over your offensive line on any given play, blitz on any given play.
Yeah, that's definitely true. That's definitely true. But the thing about Troy is he was a ball hawk. He's going to get you 4 to 5 interceptions a year. True.
I mean, one of the greatest of all time. You're right. You're right.
Definitely. Right. And he was a Pac-12 guy. Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
So, so let's talk about this, right? Now, so let's basically say you said that the Seattle Seahawks had a better secondary than us before they had Adams, right?
Yeah, I love Diggs, and I think that it's a really good secondary that is being sort of left out to dry by the worst pass rush in the league, basically.
And it's going to be the same thing this year. Like they're not better, bro.
I do think that Irvin might be an upgrade over Clowney. I love Clowney. And when Clowney is Clowney, he's the best player on the field. But what the Seahawks learned last year is that Clowney is only Clowney maybe 3 times a year. And that's the way he's been since South Carolina.
Right.
Always been. I mean, that's been his deal. Yeah. So maybe they didn't lose much. And they could still get him, man. He's still hanging out there. He's not getting what he wants. He's a free agent. Right. So I don't know. They're not done. They're not done making moves. That's the thing about the Seahawks. They're not done.
I feel like this, right?
Okay.
I just don't think that they're a better team than the 49ers, bro. When you look at running backs, when you look at linebackers, when you look at offensive line.
When you break it down position by position, you give it to the Niners. But when you look at the big picture and see how they play each other, it always comes down to the last play. It always comes down to the final yard. And just the more playmakers you have, the better chances that the ball's going to bounce your way in those close games is the way I look at it.
Right, yeah. And, you made a good point. Like, they're going to play a lot of zone. And they played a lot of zone last year to try to put a Band-Aid on that artery because Bobby Wagner gave up the most yards to tight ends in the league. He gave up 894 yards to tight ends last year.
That's right. That is right.
The Pro Bowler.
So now they bring in a strong safety. I mean, they really need Jamal Adams, man. Yeah, I'm telling you, they're much better than they were last year. You could argue they're still not good enough to beat the Niners or they're not good enough to win the Super Bowl. We'll see. But I still feel the Niners took a small step back and the Seahawks took a significant step forward. And so maybe they're either right here or maybe it's like this.
I was the first guy that came out and said we're sweeping the Seahawks this year, and I still believe it. We're sweeping the Seahawks.
It could, man. It could happen.
And it's going to be close games, just like last year. It's going to be very close games.
Yep.
Seattle Seahawks were the first team
in
history to win 10 games by 3 points or less.
It's hard to blow out the Seahawks because they run the ball so much. You only get like 8 possessions. You know what I mean?
Right.
They shorten the game, and then they sort of hope that Russell Wilson does something crazy at the end, and that works for them.
Right.
It does. It's hard to blow them out.
Right.
You gotta basically score a touchdown every possession against a very good defensive coordinator.